What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're back doing another preview video for maybe the biggest game of the tournament so far. It's going to be an enormous competition. Ireland versus New Zealand. What an enormous game. I did do a poll on the channel asking which quarterfinal you guys were most excited for, and it came out as a dead heat between France and South Africa and Ireland and New Zealand, 43% each. So those two games are the absolute outliers for this weekend, but what an exciting quarterfinal. If you're an Ireland supporter, you're probably thinking Ireland to win. If you're a New Zealand supporter, you're probably thinking New Zealand to win. If you're one of us in the middle, it's just a neutral, we got a foot in neither camp, then you're probably just looking forward to a really awesome game. But my God, what a tough one this one is to call. Of course, we're going to have a run through of the teams that have been announced, go over some of the big action areas and what we can expect in this game. And then, of course, giving a score prediction, which even as I'm filming this, I still don't even know what I'm going to say in this one, because this one could really go either way. If you enjoy this video and you're excited for this game, make sure you hit that like button. Of course, hit the subscribe button, because it really does help the channel out. Ireland then versus New Zealand. Ireland are classed as the home team, so we'll start out by talking about this Ireland team. Now, Ireland last week went on to play Scotland and got a very convincing win there. Looked really good. Scotland knew they had to put in a big performance, and it just didn't come. The first half for Ireland was one of the best halves of tier 1 versus tier 1 teams I've seen in a long time, in terms of one team just feeling in control of a game. The pacing was all going to Ireland. As you were watching it, they were just going over for scores. At no point did I think Scotland looked like they're going to score in this. It just felt like Ireland had full control and full dominance in that game. Things went a little bit hairier. Later on, they suffered their own injuries and a couple of things going wrong for them. If you're an Ireland supporter, though, you'll probably be extremely excited by this team that has been named, because it is unchanged from what we saw going up against Scotland last week in terms of the starting 15, and that is not what I expected. Of course, we had some big injuries to James Lowe and Mac Hansen, and even like 2 days ago, I don't think it was set that those boys were going to be playing this. I think Keith Earls was looking to maybe get a bit of a fixture in for this one. So starting out in the front row then, Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan and Tig Furlong be coming on in that starting front row, trying to get involved in some big scrummaging. Dan Sheehan is just brilliant. He's got to be up there for one of the best hookers in the world, right? I think for me, I sort of put Sheehan and Marks together for competing for that best hooker position in the world. They offer slightly different things, which is why it's quite hard to compare them. But Dan Sheehan is absolutely phenomenal. I think Ireland have had a real big bolster. Him coming back into this team in the starting 15, I think he's outperforming Keller at the minute. In the lock department, Tygburn going back alongside of Ian Henderson. James Ryan has been ruled out of this game with the injury, so Ian Henderson coming in. And to be fair, I thought Ian Henderson played very well against Scotland, so I'm looking forward to see this pairing come back together, because the line out is going to be, oh man, another big contestable area in this one. We know New Zealand enjoy getting involved with those line outs as well. And then in the back row, Peter O'Mahony, Josh van der Fleer and Caelan Doris in that number 8 shirt. So the same 8-pack that we got to see going up against Scotland, that looks so dominant in terms of the defence, in terms of the breakdown, the line out for them looking solid as well, and they just don't look like slowing down by any means. In terms of the halfback partnership, Jameson Gibson Park going back in alongside of Johnny Sexton. Jameson Gibson Park, of course, had to shift out to the wing last week and had a good game out on the wing, to be fair. I thought he was doing well at scrum half, but also doing well on the wing. Johnny Sexton still holding on. Every team is just trying to smash him and get him off the field, and he just refuses to leave, still playing really well. The centre partnership of Bundyaki and Gary Ringrose, who, again, Gary Ringrose, man, was just causing Scotland headaches all through that first half, just splitting defenders and getting little inroads. Again, that little pop pass off onto the shoulder. So many of these attacks so backing for Ireland. And then in the back three, James Lowe, Mac Hansen and Hugo Keenan. And I can't believe James Lowe and Mac Hansen are back in. Mac Hansen looked in great discomfort. James Lowe had one eye. So I don't know what's going on in the back room in that Ireland team. I mean, for all the credit that the players have deserved over the tournament, there's got to be some big credit going to the medics and the physio team in that Ireland squad, because feels like they haven't put out a B team. They put out the same players every week. A load of the other teams we've seen, put out a bit more of a B team going up against some of the tier 2 nations. Ireland seem to be fronting the same squad week in, week out. They're picking up injuries and just come back the next week. I mean, whatever's going on in that back room, they've got some X-Men in the background working on getting these lads all fit. And then in terms of the bench, then Ronan Kelleher, Dave Kilcoyne and Finlay Bealon will be your replacement front row. The forwards coming on alongside them, Joe McCarthy and Jack Conan. And then in terms of the replacement backs, Conor Murray, Jack Crowley and Jimmy O'Brien. To be honest, I want to see Hugo Keenan play the full 80. I think he's an immense player and a vital asset to this Ireland team. I want to see Hugo Keenan stay on that pitch. No offense to Jimmy O'Brien, I'm sure wants to get on that field, but Hugo Keenan is playing very, very well at the minute. So in terms of, what to expect from this Ireland team and how they're going to play this game, well, they of course are able to turn up to the big events, right? They went on, they played South Africa, they won that game in the pool stages. They controlled that game. South Africa bring a slightly different threat to what New Zealand bring. South Africa are going to bring the forwards. They went for the 7-1 bench, and we thought, how impactful was that going to be in that game? Ireland just controlling the pace and controlling the way the game was going, winning that breakdown battle as best they could, even against a 7-1 bench going on. So much hard work for these Irish forwards. Going into this one, it's a slightly different sort of game tactic because New Zealand are much more like attacking in terms of the backs for me. They've got so many threats who just turn the game on its head out of nowhere. Will Jordan, Mark Talea, Fainga Nuku, Rico Ioane breaks the line in that centre, more often than not. There's a real danger when it comes to this New Zealand team in terms of just one player can just turn it around for them. So yet again, I think controlling the pace of this game is going to be vital. You want to be looking at that set piece as best you can. I think actually in terms of the breakdown area, Ireland might have a bit of an easier day going up against New Zealand than South Africa. New Zealand still have fantastic players when it comes to the breakdown. They'll want to get involved in getting jackal penalties, getting those turnovers. I think this Ireland team overcame quite the hurdle going up against South Africa with the 7-1 forwards and how they were going to play that breakdown. And if they overcame that hurdle, my brain says Ireland should be able to compete very well at the breakdown versus New Zealand and face up to this team. But I think one of the big things is going to be just control. If New Zealand have the ball in their hands and they're just allowed to play, they go on the attack. New Zealand aren't a team that feel like they slow down. They just play for the full 80 at high tempo, high speed. We did see across the pool stages for New Zealand the way they control tempo, whereas Ireland like to play a very sort of formulaic, set game plan. They know what they want to do. They want to implement it their own way. New Zealand are a little bit more chop and changey in the way they can change the speed. They'll walk up to a line out really slow. It'll take a while to get the ball in. Scrums can be slow, and then bang, we're off at high speed. Defenders need to rush around and get back into position, and it's that chop and change that causes so many teams so many issues. So I think it's whoever can control the pace of the game, maybe going from set piece to set piece is the way Ireland want to play this one, back in their own defense, back in their own breakdown, and maybe just trying to remove a bit of that possession away from New Zealand. Don't necessarily give too many kicks that are just going to be kicking deep and going back for territory versus New Zealand, because they love a good counter-attack. Maybe you're looking for those positional kicks, you're trying to find grass, you're trying to kick the ball dead and get yourself into your own set piece. I think is going to be very, very important to this Ireland team as they go up against New Zealand. New Zealand, of course, had a great game against Uruguay. They came second in their pool. They lost the probably the biggest game in the pool for them was going up against that France team for me. They did come away with a loss in that game, but they've been a weird team as this World Cup has gone on. Watching the World Cup warm-ups, it didn't feel like New Zealand were firing. They had a good rugby championship. It didn't really look like they were on point for me in the World Cup warm-ups. They didn't have the greatest game against France in that World Cup opener. And over the course of the World Cup, it feels like they've built on things and they've slowly been progressing to get better and better. And as they get into this quarterfinal, I feel like they've got a bit of momentum behind them, a bit of traction to get into this game. Now they've had a couple of interesting changes to this New Zealand team from what I was necessarily expecting. So we'll have a run through. So starting out in the front row, Ethan de Groot comes back and of course got his red card. His ban is now over. Back in this front row, we'll be going alongside Cody Taylor and Tyrell Lomax. So this is back up to probably a bigger strength New Zealand front row for me. Brodie Retallick and Scott Barrett are in the 4-5 shirt. Sam Whitelock on the bench for this one. Maybe they're thinking, even though Sam Whitelock with his experience, maybe they want a bit more youth, a bit more energy, maybe in that line out, just to try and see if they can get the upper hand in that line out a little bit earlier on that game, see if they can make it stick. Obviously, South Africa did quite well in that first half when they played Ireland in terms of being able to influence that line out, but a different thrower. Ronan Kelleher isn't at the minute up to the same standard as Dan Sheehan. Dan Sheehan starting this one, you would expect the Irish lineup to probably be a bit more solid. So we'll have to see how they get on in this game. And then in the back row, Shannon Frizzell, Sam Cane, and Ardi Sarvea. So, this is a big back row. This is probably the back row I was expecting coming back into it. Sam Cane also back as captain. There's a lot of talent in that back row. This is two of the biggest back rows coming in now for World Rugby for me. Frizzell, Cane, and Sarvea going up against Peter O'Mahony, Josh Randall-Fleer, Caelan Doris. Those lads are going to kill each other, and I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be an awesome game of rugby for me to watch as a neutral. In the halfback partnership, Aaron Smith going in alongside Richie Mwanga, as we'd expect. Aaron Smith has actually been kind of exceeding expectations, considering I have high expectations for Aaron Smith. He's been scoring tries. He's been an absolute linchpin for this New Zealand team as well. Really looking forward to see him playing in that top tier again. Again, the matchups in this game. There's so many great matchups between New Zealand and Ireland. Aaron Smith versus James Gibson Park. Looking forward to that battle going on. In the centre partnership, Geordie Barrett and Rico Ioane are going to be partnered up again, going against Bundy Aki and Gary Ringrose. What a great competition that one is as well in this one. And then finally in the back three, Lester Fainga-Anuku goes in alongside of Will Jordan and Bowden Barrett taking the fullback shirt. Now, no Mark Talea, which did surprise me. I've had a quick look and there's no mention of an injury and he's ruled out. Just not picked from what I can find. If someone finds something, drop it down in the comment section. But Fainga-Anuku has got a little something special about him. I don't know what this lad is made out of, but I picked him in the fantasy, watching him against Uruguay and watching the way he's been playing and seeing a couple of his past games. There just seems to be something about this guy and just beating the first tackler. It doesn't matter if he's stationary, at full tilt, who's tackling him. He always seems to break at least one tackle. And that might be very, very important going into this game. Getting over that gain line and pushing Ireland back, because they know how good Ireland will be at that breakdown situation. Sometimes being able to break that tackle and make that extra few meters, just pushing that offside line back and making Ireland take a few steps back for you to recycle and go quicker, might be the reason they've gone for this. Although I think Mark Talea is also an absolutely superb winger on there as well. Bowden Barrett at the fullback shirt. Now, I'm not going to lie, I thought D-Mac might get in for this game. He's been impressing me, and the way he's been playing the counter-attack rugby, he's occasionally a little bit selfish. I've seen a couple of things from him where I think, like, if you give this pass, it's a try, but he's taken it on himself, still gets the try, but I think if you give the pass, it's definitely going to be a try. But just those little pieces of work that he's done with, being able to run down the wing. He, of course, got that Will Jordan try where he, managed to somehow stay in touch and slap the ball back in field for Will Jordan to go for that try. I might have been looking for Damien McKenzie to start this game. Maybe they're thinking he'll come on later. Maybe a bit more room opening up. Maybe where he can really exploit the counter-attacking rugby in this game. We're looking forward to seeing him come on though. And then in terms of the replacements overall, then Dane Coles, Tomaiti Williams, and Fletcher Newell. Dane Coles, of course, came on a couple of games ago and made a massive impact, getting over 2 tries. So not a man you want to rule out in that second half from being able to change a game potentially single-handed. Rest of the placement forward, Sam Whitelock and Dalton Papa Lee coming alongside the backs of Finlay Christie, Damien McKenzie, and Anton Linnett-Brown. Interestingly, they've gone for Finlay Christie over Roygaard. Again, I had a quick search on Google, couldn't see any injuries to Roygaard. Again, maybe a player that's a little bit over selfish. He's getting the points and getting the tries, so it feels hard to say he's being selfish. But there's definitely a couple plays I see Roygaard take on where he picks up the ball, shows a dummy on a 2-on-1 and runs it himself. It's like, if you just gave the pass, you'd probably get the try anyway. But he's always looking for it himself. Again, in that second half, if you've got D-Mac coming on, I'm not sure whether he'll come on at fullback or at 10, but I might have liked to have seen him pair it with Roygaard to bring on in that second half in case you're down on the scoreboard. 2 big attacking threats in terms of your halfback partnership. I might have liked to have seen, and then Anton Linnett-Brown is your last replacement back as well. Don't actually know if I said that before, going out of my own brain, but had a good game in the last one as well. But Rico, you want to get in the jump on him on that outside centre. So in terms of this game, how do we think this one is going to go? This is a really hard game for me to call. My head is saying that if Ireland have been able to overcome South Africa and Scotland back to back, and the obstacles they faced and the way they've been impressing me, the way they've been able to show the depth in the squad to not only, recover from the injuries they had against the Scotland game, chucking an outside centre on the wing, a scrum half on the wing, and still playing extremely well. They overcame the physicality of South Africa. This one's a bit of a different test, but my brain is saying Ireland surely have got the capability to be able to go on to this game, but I've got a bit of this gut feeling, that thought in the back of your head that's saying, you know what, New Zealand look like they're improving in a lot of different areas. They look like they're much better now than where they were at the start of the World Cup. And of course, we had those games going on last year. They had that best of 3 games going on in July. Ireland beat New Zealand over in New Zealand on 2-1 in that series, and I can see New Zealand wanting to fight back for this one. In terms of their last 5 games then, those 3 games from last July, of course, wrapped up into that, but before that, November of 2021, Ireland took that one by 9 points, and then in October of 2019, New Zealand took that one by 32 points. So the history of Ireland and New Zealand, it feels a little bit like Ireland are going to take this one by 10, or New Zealand are going to take this one by about 25. Now, of course, there's always been this lot of talk about the Irish quarterfinal curse and everything they face. If there's one team to beat in the quarterfinals to break that curse, New Zealand's got to be up there, right? If you go on to beat New Zealand in the quarterfinals, you've done South Africa, Scotland, and New Zealand back to back. You feel like they deserve to go on at that point. They're having an awesome tournament at that point. The kicking duties of both sides, I can see almost every single kick going through. Johnny Sexton's going to need to be on point. New Zealand, of course, have just so many kickers. Mo'unga and Barrett and Geordie Barrett, Damien McKenzie can come on later. They're just not going to be missing kicks either, really. So the 3 points are going to be incredibly important. This one, to me, just comes down to, how's the game going to be played? Are Ireland going to control the pace? Is it going to be slow, methodical, a very sort of professional game and just organising themselves and stopping what New Zealand want to do? Or are New Zealand going to be allowed to open this game up, go through the backs, choosing those kicks, contesting the high balls, putting their players under big pressure, and maybe going for some big scores in this game? I really don't know which way this one's going to go. I'm going to lean, for the sakes of this video, with my head and lean slightly towards Ireland. I'm going to say Ireland by 3, but New Zealand could also take this one. I'm thoroughly looking forward to this game. This will be one of the games of the weekend. I hope you guys are all looking forward to this one too. Make sure you drop down in the comment sections what you think of the teams, how you think this game is going to go, and of course, make sure you drop down your own score predictions. I can see this one going either way. What a great game of rugby to get us into these quarterfinals. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.